Welcome back to my channel. We have changed the format, the logo, and everything else really. So welcome to Tip Top Tabletop. Let us get straight into the action. Today I will paint with these paints and a combo of them. The base will be brown, the dark one, and then I will mix it with light brown and eventually the sand yellow. The purple and the purple blue will be mixed as well for the Pusgoyles. I will make it lighter with the sand yellow again. No white and no desaturation. I will start with the base coat of brown. I want this to be a nice, evenly spread and covering surface. The saddle and the legs will be brown. When you apply a thin coat of paint, try to give it time to rest and settle. The wet paint can chip or give strange spots. Just take your time and apply the paint evenly and with some degree of care. The color brown I am using is Saddle Brown from AK, and it is a really nice paint. With a little bit of water it stays nice and smooth. Making evenly long strokes with the brush and following the shape of the model, it is not hard to create an even base coat. The paint is wet and thinned with some water. This means it will take a few seconds to dry. Acrylic paint dries fairly quick, so just distribute the paint and wait. The paint will also change slightly in color of intensity as the paint dries, making bright a bit less bright. Keep that in mind when you fret the idea of making the big of jumps between colors. As you can see, it is not always easy to keep the miniature in the center of the frame. I do apologize for this, but I am doing my best to get it back in frame. But as I am applying the base coat to the legs, let me ask you about your first miniature. What was it, and why did you paint it? My first miniature was a Dungeons & Dragons miniature. I painted it for a weekend game with my friends. I used really bad paint and even worse brushes, but the result was all right. We had a blast that weekend, and see me now, about a year beyond that point. I love painting and creating little pieces of art, although I still find it really difficult to come up with color schemes. If anyone has some tips about coming up with color schemes, then please leave me a tip in the comments. While you are at it, leave a like and maybe even a subscribe if you want to see me finish this miniature and explain how I ready it further for Squidmar Open. When you're painting a miniature, try to think up front about where you need to apply paint and when. At this point in the process, I really do not want to touch the green with my brown brush, and that makes painting the legs a bit more difficult. One of the solutions could be subassembly. This is when you assemble the miniature after you paint certain pieces. In this specific case, I could have painted the legs before gluing them to the body. This would have made the painting of this part a bit more easy, but I did not do that, so I just need to be a bit more careful and a bit slower. When you do choose to paint in subassembly, then do not forget to keep the plastic, the parts where the model needs to be attached to the other parts of the model, free of paint. Plastic glue is not cohesive through paint. As the base coat is applied, it is time for the next part, layering. Layering is the name for a technique that technically explains itself. You place a new layer of paint over another layer of paint. This is the technique you will be using most of the time. When you make the paint really thin, you may call it glazing. When you make small little dots at the place where your paint transitions into another paint, you may call it feathering, and when you keep the paint wet and you layer with the following color, you may call it wet blending. These are all names and techniques I will explain in later videos, but in essence, it is just layering. So do not worry when people tell you, you need to master a different technique. At the base, you already know it. Here I am layering a lighter color over the brown. I am using a mix, keeping the 25 rule in mind, of saddle brown and light brown. I keep the paint moist to wet and need to apply several coats. Every time I apply a new coat, I try to cover a little bit less than the brush stroke before the last one. This gives it a natural transition. Sometimes it works wonders, and sometimes I need to fix the transitions with one of the before named techniques. Eventually I finish with the tips of the model. These I want the brightest. Here I am using a non-mixed light brown to make the legs seem a bit sharp. I am applying the paint thin and carefully as I do not want much of the model to be too bright. I know that I will still need to apply some paints later to make it better, but it already gives a nice finished feel for the legs. Not only the sharp point of the legs need to be a bit brighter, the same as with the skin. Certain parts are slightly stressed, and the skin-o fabric gets strained and becomes slightly brighter than the rest of the model. Vince Ventura says that the sticky outie bits need to be bright, and that is correct. If it sticks out, make it a bit brighter than the rest. To create some texture to the saddle, I'm making small stripes. It feels as if the leather is strained and pulled over the saddle. I must say that I am not happy with the result of the saddle at the end of this part, so I will come back to this. On the other hand, there will be a rider on this creature, so maybe I will leave it as it is. Sometimes it is better to focus on the parts that draw attention instead of paying too much attention to details that no one will see or even care about. I was not happy with the legs at this point, and I used the sand yellow to make the bright parts a bit more brighter. I do not want to desaturate the paint in any way, so I am not using white or black to change the color. As I take my time and really try to make the model brighter, let's listen to the great Nurgle song.
Grab the brush, it's time to start. Base the green, let's make some art. Death Guard rising, Nurgle's might, spreading plague with every fight. Paint the plague, rust and grime, Nurgle's glory out of time. Death Guard marching, gross and proud, rot and ruin scream out loud. Layer flesh shades of decay, bloated warriors lead the fray. Highlight armor, sickly tones, corruption seeping through the bones. Paint the plague, rust and grime, Nurgle's glory out of time. Death Guard marching, gross and proud, rot and ruin scream out loud. Brush in hand, bring the rot. Nurgle loves what you have wrought. Miniatures done, foul and true. Death Guard's coming, thanks to you. Paint the plague, rust and grime, Nurgle's glory out of time. Death Guard marching, gross and proud, rot and ruin scream out loud. Out loud.
Well, to speak about rot and ruin, I guess the boils are a real nice treat then. I love to do these small details, and I really learn to take my time with them. I know that they will not be seen, individually, by everyone, but in the greater picture they will make the difference, and do not forget. I want to submit this model to Squidmar Open, so I need to take my time with every small detail. Maybe I do need to redo the saddle then. As we start to finish up, I want to thank those who kept watching until this part, and hopefully you enjoy the content. Please leave me a like, a comment, and a subscribe if you really want to be friendly. For now, all that rests me to do is place some slight highlights. Remember that I am completing only up to 85 or 90% of the model. The rest I will finish as I have all the parts colored. I do this to get coherency at that point. Also, I want to give a shout out to Servi, who is my first subscriber. Everyone else, please enjoy the end of the video and enjoy your day. Remember to keep the paint wet and the models colored.